Do you? Wow! Bear with me. Don't click off. I found myself today standing in a convenience store holding this box of Do You, and it's also known as soy milk. And I thought to myself, like, what part of the bean am I drinking? What's the process of it being a bean in a field to being in the little box in my hand? And you'll have to excuse my curiosity, but I suddenly felt the pull to investigate. So I did. Hi, my name is Corey. Maybe you know me. And today I'm going to go on a journey to discover what makes Do You. Want to come along? I'm very curious, or on this channel, Curious. So the first thing I did as a kid that grew up in the 1990s and 2000s is I went to Wikipedia, of course. I found basic information right away. This is Do You, or known in English as soy milk. It is made from soybeans. Makes sense. Interestingly, it was originally an intermediate product in the process of making tofu. An intermediate product, by the way, is an product that you use to make a final product. That's something else I learned today. Think of another word being ingredient, like steel is an intermediate product to build a car, or flour is an intermediate product to make bread, or microchips are an intermediate product to make a computer. These are all intermediate products, another word being ingredients. But ingredients sounds like food, and intermediate products can be anything. Interestingly, these intermediate products can also have intermediate products, such as silicon being used to make microchips. That's an intermediate product. At least that's how I understand it. So soy milk is an ingredient, a synonym for intermediate product, I guess, in the process of making tofu. Makes sense. I kind of knew that, but, making sure and 100%, it feels like, ooh, it's there forever now. But then I wondered when it started to be drank. Like, when did people start drinking this? It had to have been a long time ago. But before I could find that answer, I went down a rabbit hole. I read about a law in the EU regarding the word milk. Milk, according to the European Union, is a term that must only be used with the normal mammary secretion obtained from one or more milkings without either addition thereto or extraction therefrom. That's the legal term. What it means is milk must come from mammals to be called milk. Oh, curious. So I was curious about other countries' laws, but I got stuck on the EU law because I'm curious, where's the line? Like, where's the distinction? For example, you do not need to put the word cow milk on a bottle in Europe. You can just put milk, but you do need to put the word goat milk or sheep milk on the bottle if it comes from a goat or a sheep. Interesting. There are some exceptions for things like coconut milk, as it is just not a mammal, as far as I know. But then there was a lawsuit in 2017 that's really recent, honestly. The lawsuit happened in Germany because soy milk was called milk. A company in Germany was calling their soy and tofu products milk or cheese. That's kind of odd, thinking of tofu as soy cheese. I don't like that. And that kind of makes soy milk seem strange now, too. Anyway, because of this lawsuit, many places in Europe sell soy drink or soy beverages now instead of soy milk, like in Italy and in Ireland and some other major countries. Anyway, I digress. Digress means to go back to the original point. That was kind of a side quest. Anyway, the oldest record of soy milk or soy beverage was in the Eastern Han Dynasty in China, I found out. There was a recipe they found on a stone slab, and they used the stone slab to grind the soybeans. So they know at least at that time, which was around 300, 200 AD. However, it was made during the Mongol Yuan as well in the 1300s as a kind of watery drink. It was also included in a book of medicine and natural history in the 1500s and 1500s before they suddenly discovered something interesting. The fart medicine. In the Qing dynasty, they found out that if you heated this drink to at least heated it for 90 minutes, it becomes hydrolyzed. And hydrolyzed comes from the words like hydro, which means water, and lysis, which means to unbind, to pull apart, or to cut, right? Think of it like cutting. That's what I think of lysing. We use it in biology a lot. So when it is heated, water will cut a chemical bond. It will lyse the chemical bond. The chemical bond, the chemicals it would cut up, why is that important? Raffinose and stachyose. Both of these are something called an oligosaccharide. These are big words, science words, but raffinose and stachyose are both kinds of sugars, commonly found in beans or legumes. Legumes is a kind of distinction for beans. Anyway, these sugars can cause some digestive pain, some stomach pain and indigestion, bad digestion. It also causes flatulence or farts in adults usually. But if you're lactose intolerant, especially, not in children as much. It usually comes later. Anyway, yeah, not pleasant. But heating it over 90 minutes broke down these sugars. It dissolved the sugars. It got rid of them. So no more farts. Great. This continued all the way through the Qing dynasty and was apparently paired with this delicious, super delicious looking treat called a yao tiao. Yu tiao. I'm sorry. I'm not sure the pronunciation. Yu tiao. It looks like a salted donut. This was eaten at breakfast usually and still is with this new version of fart-free soy milk. Apparently it was dipped in warm soy milk, I found out. That sounds amazing. And my next thought was surely this came to Korea, right? Like a salted donut made out of wheat that you dip in hot soy milk. It sounds super like a traditional Korean food to me. So I looked into it. I got curious if it was related to 꽈배기 because the youtiao looks like a twisted, like it's two things twisted, but it's a bit different looking than 꽈배기. But you never know. Maybe it's just the same thing, but different names and different versions. So I looked into it and no, it absolutely is not related. Both are twisted kinds of donuts, but they have different origins. Origins meaning where did it come from? The original place, original origin, same meaning. So the origin is the location it originated, it came from. So first, 꽈배기 are made with rice flour, which is different, and they're deep fried in peanut oil. They're called shakoy in the Philippines and sukabe in Japan. Interesting, but not the same as is youtiao. But they came from China too, just from northern China. It was a pastry called mahua. It's a traditional pastry of the Hui Muslim people in northern China. It was brought to Korea by the Shandong region Chinese immigrants at the end of the Joseon dynasty. So these two dishes are cousins. They are related. They're not from the same parents. They're not the same thing, but they are related. I also found that in many Chinese restaurants in Korea, you can still get youtiao when you eat jampong or jjajangmyeon. But so I must have eaten one before. I had to. There's no way I wouldn't try it. But I'd never tried it with hot soy milk, that's for sure. I'm very curious about this. I want to go eat jjajangmyeon and see if they have the youtiao there. And I want to get the hot soy milk and try. Sounds interesting. But anyway, I found an interesting fact. In one place in Korea, both 꽈배기 and youtiao became closer than other places in Korea. Excuse me. In Daegu and the Gyeongsang region, the name youtiao disappeared entirely. You can still see it on menus I saw in Korea, like youtiao or something like that. That area, Daegu and the Gyeongsang area, had a lot of Chinese immigrant food early on in the Korean Enlightenment period. The local people there started calling it chamsal donut instead of youtiao. And so it's more related to 꽈배기 there, just from the words, from the etymology. Etymology means the study of words. So the Korean Enlightenment was my next rabbit hole, my next side quest. It took place during the 1870s to 1910, which I'm sure you know. I was aware, but I didn't know the exact dates. It was when Korea opened its borders and pushed for modernization to become more modern, more like the other superpowers at the time. It was right before Japan annexed Korea. Before that, Korea had been known as a hermit kingdom, which restricted contact with foreign powers, as you all know, of course. In 1876, after the Treaty of Ganghwa, a lot of things changed, which allowed Chinese immigrants to come in and bring these foods with them. So that's why in Daegu and in Gwangsang area, they had more Chinese immigrants in this time period. So the name changed to become closer because they were more Koreanified. They became more like Korean people. Yeah, makes sense. Very, very curious. Anyway, the process was very straightforward, more straightforward than I thought, and very understandable, the process of how to make duyu. The beans are soaked in water, ground up, and then heated or boiled for a while. It can be sweetened or flavored or fortified, which means to make like a fort, to make stronger. So in this case, it means adding nutrients to it. But then it's basically done. This is where I learned the word soy odor, which I was not aware of. I was unaware of this idea. Apparently, foreigners usually don't like soy odor. I guess the first time I tried, or the first time I was around Cheonggukjang, the smell was quite strong, and I didn't like the smell. I didn't want to try it because it seemed like it smelled strange. But now I love Cheonggukjang. It's one of my favorite foods in the whole world. But if that's soy odor, then I don't know. So I looked into it some more because like I don't really, it just smells like duyu to me. I don't understand. Anyway, so I looked into it, and it is called, this soy odor is described as a kind of grassy bean smell, or like a flavor like grass. And apparently many foreigners don't like it, but I didn't know that. I knew that they didn't like Cheonggukjang, and I knew that some people didn't like doenjang because it was too strong. But I didn't know the soy odor was a problem, except Cheonggukjang is quite strong. Anyway, another side quest. But I looked into the nutritional information next because it was there and quite interesting. I learned some things. So soy milk or soy drink, it usually has around 7 grams of protein for every 80 calories, which is around 250 milliliters if it's not sweetened. So it almost has that 1-to-10 ratio that you look for when you're finding food that has high amounts of protein. To like talk about that some more, if you're looking for a protein-rich food thing or like a supplement, 1-to-10 ratio is quite good, right? Maybe some of you are weightlift or do go to the gym. So for example, if you have a 200 calorie drink or protein bar, having it have 20 grams of protein, that's good. Having it have 5 grams of protein, not so good. So this one almost has that. This specific one it's 100 calories and it's got 9 grams of protein. So it's really close. It's much closer to that 1-10 ratio than some other things. So it almost has the 1:10 ratio, which is much better than the 1.55 grams of protein for the 40 calories of almond milk. That ratio is a bit more not so great. And 3 grams of protein for 120 calories of oat milk, which is really not good. But oat milk tastes so delicious. It also has a better ratio than cow milk, which is around 7.7 grams of protein for 150 calories. Because cow milk has such high fat content is most likely why. And then I found an interesting and strange fact I was not prepared for. Human milk, if you were curious, has 2.5 grams of protein per 172 calories. I didn't expect to learn that today, but now I know. It also has something called phytic acid, duyu does. This may cause problems if you eat a lot of it because it reduces the mineral absorption in your blood. But it also might help you with help reduce the risk of colon cancer. So it has pros and cons. So this leads into how it is used in cuisine. Or cuisine is another word for cultural food. I said before it is used to make breakfast with starchy foods like youtiao or something called mantao, which is a kind of roll or a bun of bread. Please excuse my pronunciation, I'm sorry. But it's a kind of bun or a kind of bread they eat it with in China. And of course, here in Korea, we use it to make kongguksu, which is one of my other favorite foods in the whole world. Oh, I love kongguksu. In Japan, they use it to make yuba, which is called tofu skin, apparently. I heard the word yuba, but I never thought about it. So, the tofu skin, the yuba, is like an intermediate product that's used to make tofu chicken and tofu duck and ham and stuff. I didn't know. And in Korea, it's called dubu gopchil. So that's yuba. I didn't know. Man, I put a note here in my notes. It says, "Oh, I'm getting hungry." When I was writing the notes down, my stomach started growling when I was seeing all the tofu turkey and tofu chicken and stuff. All right. Well, this led me to the next step, which was the amount of water to make cow's milk versus other plant-based milk. I wasn't aware exactly about the details. The difference between the amount of water used to make cow's milk versus soy milk is staggering. To make 1 glass, 200 grams of cow's milk, it requires 131 liters of water. Almond milk takes a lot, but it's still half of what it takes for cow's milk. It's 74 liters. Rice milk takes about 56 liters. And oat milk takes a lot less. It only takes 9 liters of water. But soy milk is the king by far. It takes only 2 liters of water to make 200 grams of soy milk. For greenhouse gas emissions, stuff like global warming, 1 glass of 200 grams of cow's milk, it makes 0.62 kilograms of CO2. Rice, soy, oat, and almond are all pretty similar, from about 0.16 kilograms to 0.23 kilograms. Soy, for your information, FYI, is another way we say that, is 0.21. So cow milk is still, wow, a lot more greenhouse emissions. So that's how it's made. Its nutrition information when compared to other milks was really interesting. And as a plant-based milk, it is probably my favorite. I like the flavor of oat milk a lot, but it's too sweet sometimes. And I can drink duyu every day. All right. Yeah. My curiosity was sated. I learned something new and I felt a lot better after that. Well, that was fun. Did you stay around to the end? I appreciate it. I know this is a different kind of video than normal here on Corey Teacher, but thanks for going on that journey with me. If you'd like to go on another Curiosity journey in the future, then like, subscribe, and hit the bell so you don't miss my next Curiosity urge. Also, let me know what other topics you've been curious about. Maybe it'll spark me to be curious and make another one of these. Yeah, if you have some idea what I should explore, please let me know. Or tell me about soybeans or soy products or soy milk or tofu. I'm fascinated right now. It's so interesting. If I got anything wrong, I'm really sorry. I'm just a learner like you. So if you know more, please tell me. I'm totally okay with being wrong about something. That's how you learn, right? All right, this makes me want to go to a soy milk factory or like go watch how people make tofu like traditionally. That would be really fun. Maybe I should find something like that. Anyway, I love tofu and do you. This was fun. Okay, I'll see you on our next adventure, Adventuring Buddy, if you want to come along. Remember, just keep improving yourself every day and stay curious. See ya! Oh, I guess I should take a drink of my Do You first, huh? Oh, it's so good. Oh, I like Do You so much. The calories are a little bit high for just drinking, but like it feels so creamy. It's like a dessert. Oh, so nice. Do you guys drink Do You? I know some of my friends drink it every day. For a little while, I did that. I drank Do You every day for a kind of protein supplement a few years ago, but I kind of fell off of it. I was obsessed with oat milk for a while. I really liked oat milk with a protein powder put in it. And oh, it tasted so good. After a workout and drinking that, and it's really cold, I could drink a huge one, like a really big one, like within 1 minute. And it was so nice. It really woke me up. But I don't do that anymore. It's like I said, it's too sweet for me now. Anyway, oh, that's really delicious. I may have to get some more Do You on the way to work tomorrow. Anyway, have a good day, everybody. See you next time. If you're curious, come back. Let's find some more curious things to look for. Bye.